Be a baller. Welcome to Be a Baller, where we discuss how to build a lifelong legacy. I'm your host, Coach Tim Brown. This month is Fatherhood Month, and we're blessed to have as a special guest Coach University President Jim Tressel.
Before we get started, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
The team at the Financial Solutions Network is proud to partner with Tim Brown and bring you this episode of Be a Baller. Our mission is to share generously of our time, talent, and financial resources to help our clients develop financial plans and wealth management strategies that allow them to live the lives they imagine, while connecting them with experiences and people that enhance their quality of life. FCA is one of those organizations by helping young men and women through the development of their personal faith. The Financial Solutions Network is an independently owned and managed wealth advisory firm based in Worthington, Ohio. We are a multi-generational professional team of advisors with a combined 83 years of experience teaching and managing financial strategies for individuals, families, businesses, and institutions. We would be honored to help you plan your financial journey. Contact us at 614-505-3025 or visit our website at tfsn.net.
Today, Coach will talk about a special relationship with his father, former Baldwin-Wallace coach Lee Tressel, and the men who have impacted his sports and spiritual journey. Coach Tressel, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tim. It's great to be here. It's an honor, and appreciate what you're doing, trying to share the good news and glean wisdom off of your large network.
Amen. Coach, I hear that your dad wore a bow tie on the sidelines, and you went with the sweater vest, no bow tie. What happened to the bow tie?
Well, I told my coaches for years and years, you can study other coaches, but don't emulate them. You got to become your own person. And so I kind of left the bow tie to my dad, and the sweater vest thing kind of started by accident. When we got to Ohio State, the people from Nike who provided our sideline wear asked me what I was comfortable wearing. And I said it didn't really matter to me, whatever they wanted. And they said, well, what did you wear at Youngstown State? And I said, well, it was chilly up there in Northeast Ohio, played a lot of night games. And so I always used to put on a little extra layer, put on a sweater vest. And they said, okay, that's what you're going to wear. What I didn't realize was on those noon games in the Horseshoe with 106,000 people and 90 degrees, I'm sure a lot of people thought I was out of my mind wearing a sweater vest in August or September. But that's how it all started.
Well, I know the fans was looking at you like, what is wrong with this guy? Take that vest off sometime. Well, it was funny. How special is for you and your dad, Coach Lee Tressel, to be one of the only father and son coaches to win national football championships?
Well, obviously we had great teams and we had great players and great coaching staffs and good fortune, but we're not the only father-son that have won national championships. Vince and Larry Karras at Mount Union have won national championships, but we are the only father and son who are both in the College Football Hall of Fame. And obviously that makes you so proud. I remember when my father was inducted, he had passed already. And so I got to kind of sit in for him, not knowing that one day I would get to do it on my own. But wow. I was sitting next to Walter Payton, who was being inducted in the College Hall of Fame that day in the picture of the inductees. And he couldn't have been a nicer guy. And it was just a thrill, not only to be representing my dad, but also to be sitting next to Sweetness when that happened. And so we're awfully proud of my dad.
Wow, that was special there. You grew up in a football family, with dad being a coach, siblings playing football. Can you talk about that, growing up in that football family?
Well, the greatest advantage I think any of us can have are those of us that had a great example at home. My father just happened to be an educator, teacher, coach, worked every day to serve his students, his players, his schools, his community. My mom was always serving someone, whether it was the local PTA or the community or the university or cooking food for my dad's players. So I got to watch an example of selfless people who loved others, and it really didn't matter what any of them looked like. We had big guys, small guys, guys from Ohio, guys from New Jersey, guys from white guys, black guys, all different religions. They were just there, to serve people. And to see that example, really, I've often heard that the greatest way any of us can learn is by example. And it pains me so sometimes when I worked with young people and they didn't have that advantage I had of having a example of work ethic and selflessness and enthusiasm and positiveness and all those things. And that's why as a coach, it was fun to try to stand in the gap a little bit. Mm-hmm. As you and I both know, Tim, Jesus was the greatest example. Yeah. To me, it's not all about what your quote religion is. It's, are you Christ-like? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what are we following his example? Now, it's a hard one to follow, but are we following it?
Mm-hmm. Wow. As you think about that, can you talk about that special relationship between your dad as your coach? You played for him. Can you talk about that special relationship? Those ride homes after the game, after practice, around the dinner table. What was that like?
Well, we didn't really ride home because we lived on campus. Our house was next to the stadium, so there really wasn't much riding going on. And my dad was, I don't know if you ever met him, Tim, but he was a man of very few words. He was very measured in working with all of his players. And he treated my oldest brother who played for him and myself just like he treated everyone else. He did whisper to us that if it were close between ourselves and someone else as to who was going to play, it might go to that someone else. Mm-hmm. He just wanted us to know that he was going to be fair, but he was also going to work hard to appear to be fair. Mm-hmm. And we needed to know that. And but like I tell families that ask me that all the time, they say, it's a good idea if Johnny plays for his dad. I said, it'll be a good idea if you win. Because if you don't win, it's no fun, and then you add insult to injury when your dad's the coach. So I would only suggest if you think you're going to win some games, go for it. But otherwise, you might want to talk a little bit.
Oh, that's classic. That's classic. Yeah, I think I was laughing hard because I was my son's fifth grade teacher. I was his teacher in fifth grade, and my wife was my daughter's second grade teacher. And Coach, the parent-teacher conferences were hilarious. What did you tell him?
Right. Yep.
Oh, man, that was a tough one.
And you were probably tougher on them than any of their other teachers were.
Yeah. And like you said, it's a good idea if your son's smart, go get good grades.
That's right.
It's not good. If he's going to struggle a little bit, he might want to go to another class with another teacher.
Well, and if he's going to misbehave in your class, it's a real bad idea.
Real bad idea. Wow, that's great. As we think about this, was that your first love as a favorite sport? Football always that first sport?
We loved playing football in the yard and so forth. But back in the day when we were growing up in our community, there wasn't a whole bunch of youth football. In fact, we did not start playing football till seventh grade in school, but we played in the yard, and we loved playing it. Probably from an organized fashion, we got to start playing baseball a little earlier, and because it was in the summer, we didn't have to be at school. So I probably liked baseball to start with, and then as basketball came in, I enjoyed that. But I think ultimately, once I got to high school, I think the one that I enjoyed the most was football. And, there's something about football because so many people are involved. It takes a team of 40, 50, 60. Mm-hmm. At Ohio State, we had 105 guys, everyone playing a role. You have trainers, managers, student coaches. So what I loved about the game of football was the huge community that it built, that we got to have a good sized group of people working for a common cause. And to me, it's the greatest game ever invented.
Wow. As we flip gears, can you talk about your faith journey and your special relationship with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Campus Crusade Athletes in Action. Can you talk about that?
Well, I was blessed. You go back to the example and the impact that your coaches can make. My high school coach, Tom Madsey, when I was going into my junior year, said to me, hey, I think it'd be a good idea if you go to a Fellowship of Christian Athletes camp. He said the Kiwanis Club is sponsoring, and they wanted to send a couple guys. And my buddy Bob Colvin and I, our coach, picked. And he said, I think you two guys maybe could learn a lot from that and so forth. And I didn't really know what I was in for. But the coach said it would be a good idea. And so when the coach says it's a good idea, I said, let's go. And so Bob and I went out to Valparaiso, Indiana. And as time went through the week, there were some amazing things that we came to realize. One, every morning started in quiet time. And that's something since that day I've tried to not miss many mornings. In fact, I had my teams do quiet time as we began our mornings in preseason camp and so forth. So I learned the value of quiet time. We had a lot of great speakers. We had a lot of fellowship. We had that quiet time for reflection and prayer and studying scripture on our own. But the real breakthrough moment, and we all, I think, have had a breakthrough moment, was our last evening. Our speaker was a guy named Bobby Richardson. And, I mentioned that to young people today, and they don't know Bobby Richardson from the Man in the Moon. But Bobby Richardson in my day was the New York Yankees second baseman, 10-year World Series, world's MVP. I mean, he was the man. And so he was up there, and we were all mesmerized, thinking he was going to talk about New York Yankees or World Series or whatever he was going to talk about. And I'll never forget that evening, and I've told this story many times, is he asked us a question. He said, if the game of life ended this evening, would you be a winner? And that's a question that a group of athletes could understand. We knew what winning and losing was. When the ninth inning ended, we know if we won or we lost. When the fourth quarter ended, we know if we won or we lost, and we know there was nothing we could do about it to change it. When he said, if the game of life ended, I was like, whew, I don't know. And it felt like a long time until he broke the tension. I'm sure it was only 5 seconds or so, but he said, well, if you're not sure, I can help you be sure. You simply need to ask Jesus into your life. And from this moment on, have him direct your life. And you win. Now, he says it's not easy. It takes work, like any other thing that you do. But you've learned a lot here this week at the Fellowship of Christian Athletes about prayer and about studying the scripture and about being discipled and about having fellowship and about constantly growing and understanding that there's going to be ups and downs and you're going to handle adversity along the way. But you need to be directed by Jesus. And if you'll do that, you can answer affirmatively that if the game of life ended tonight, you win. And to me, that was understandable. And it's like any other message. We can get them too complicated, or we can get them understandable. And I understood, and it's been a journey ever since. Not totally perfect by any means, but certainly it has been my rock and my go-to and my North Star, all those ways you want to put it. And it all started with that simple question.
Speaking of that, why was it so important for you to expose your athletes to faith organizations like FCA and Athletes in Action when you were coaching? Why was that so important to you?
Well, I promised all my guys when I recruited them that it was going to be about more than football, and that I was going to elicit from them what they were interested in and where they wanted to grow, challenge you to be the best academically. Where do you want to grow in service of others? Where do you want to grow in your health habits? Well, one of the areas that we always asked them were what were their goals in terms of their morals and their values and their spirituality and their ethics. And so when they would write their goals out and their plan for how to accomplish those goals, I always felt that it was our responsibility to provide experiences and opportunities to grow. So we needed to have study tables so they could grow in academics. We needed to have a weight room so they could meet their bench press goal. We needed to do a good job coaching football and give them practice opportunities so they could maybe make the NFL. But we also needed to provide spiritual growth opportunities. And again, it's up to them as to would they like to take advantage of them. None of our spiritual growth opportunities, programs, FCA, AIA, any of that was mandatory. But when the young people said they had a goal to grow in those areas, you'd be surprised at how many of them took advantage of those growth opportunities. And, I've always felt very comfortable in assessing what our guys' goals were and then trying to help them achieve them. I had one player who was Muslim, and we made sure that he got to the Muslim student organization on campus. And he knew that, when the Ramadan and all the things that he really were his North Star. If it was a Jewish person, we provided all the information about that. And if it was someone who didn't have an interest, then that was their choice. And so I always felt very comfortable with how we tried to assist our students spiritually and morally.
That's good stuff. Coach, did you always want to be a coach? Who were some of your early influences during your coaching journey?
I think when I was young, I wanted to be young. So I wanted to play. And, you went from one season to the next, one grade to the next. And we're going to be a junior. We get to be on the varsity. Oh, we're going to be a senior. We get to be a leader. And so I really wasn't paying attention, honestly, to what would lie after that. I think it was when my guidance counselor told me at the end of my junior year that I had to start applying for colleges if I wanted to go to college, or the military if I wanted to go to military, or trade school if I wanted to go to trade school. And I was like, "Ooh, I don't, well, my two older brothers went to college. I guess I think I want to go to college. My dad works at a college, and the impact he has on his students, I'd love to have that type of impact on me." And I said, "But I don't really know what I want to study." And my guidance counselor said, "Well, your math scores are really good. You're an outstanding math student. Why don't you think about engineering?" And I remember saying, "Well, heck, I don't know anything about driving a train, so no, I'm not interested in it." He said, "No, not that kind of engineer where you build things and you use your math." And I said, "Ooh, I'm not good at building things. I'm good at playing. Right. I'm not good at building things." He said, "Well, you better start thinking about what you want to do." And that's when I really decided that I thought I wanted to go into coaching. And I had been paying attention closely to my coaches, the impact they made, my dad, his staff. Then I started reading a little bit more. And probably the two guys that I read the most about, that I admired the most, were John Wooden and Tom Landry. And I read everything that they wrote, and I wanted to be like them. I knew I couldn't be them, but I wanted to be like them. And then I would read about Grant Taft, and on down the road, I've got hundreds of books I love studying from other coaches and picking up things, not with the idea that I'm going to be a carbon copy, but is there something that I could pick up from them? We got the idea for our winner's manual really from a tape I was listening to that Hayden Fry from Iowa was talking about. When he first got to Iowa, he gave his team a course on winning because they hadn't won. Course on winning. Well, I want to create a manual for winning in all the phases of your life. That's when our winner manual started and grew from 60 pages the first year to 500 pages the last year. Many contributions from our players and coaches. And so anyway, studying from others is so important. That's why, I don't love all of the social media that has suffocated us. But on the other hand, man, there's so many good podcasts out there and so much information. If you choose the right stuff, You can really grow, and it's free. You don't have to, you don't have to send away and buy the book or whatever. And so I always encourage my coaches to read. Our teams, we read a book every year together. When I became a president, I drove my deans and my vice presidents crazy because I kept bringing them books, that I thought they needed to read. And, obviously you only know what you know. Why don't you go find out what someone else knows?
That's good. That's good. Speaking of, what are some life lessons that you and your staff were trying to impart to these young men outside of sports? Some life lessons outside of sports.
Well, we really worked hard, Tim, to equate their favorite subject, which was football, to the rest of the world, the rest of life. And that really it wasn't much different. And that if you were going to be successful in football or in your chosen major or in your family or in your community or whatever, it was probably going to have the same guiding principles. It was going to have the same type of journey. And that's why we really worked hard on what we called our journey of success, whether it was our journey of success academically or football-wise or spiritually or family-wise. And that journey of success always began with creating a plan and setting goals and dreaming. And then it was followed by work. Again, you got to work regardless. You got to work at being a dad. You got to work at being a husband. You got to work at being a coach. You got to work at being a whatever job you're doing. You got to work. And then the third thing that we talked about that we thought crossed the lines of both football and everything else was, and along the way, you're going to have to handle the good times and the bad.
Yes.
Because there's going to be good times and bad. That's just the way it is. In fact, without some of the bad times, you don't grow. I think back personally and professionally, the toughest times, most disappointing times, the hardest losses, whatever, probably helped us learn more than when things were going along and we started to think to ourselves, oh, we're wonderful. This just works. And then lastly, whether it's academics, career, football, spiritual life, it comes down to the point when you have those goals set and you put that work in and you handle the ups and downs. Ultimately, you have to believe. And you have to believe that you can do it. You have to believe that you can win. You have to believe that you can make a difference. So really, we tried hard not to make football different than everything else they were doing.
Yeah. That's a good word. I think in the Bible it says how all things work together, for the good of those who love the Lord, called and went to his purpose, not just the good things, but all those things. And you look back on life, that's why I love doing this legacy piece, because all of us can look back on life and we thought, man, that was really bad. But then when you look at it, you can see what the value of that, the lesson learned from that,
No question.
All that works out for good. You had great success at every level, Youngstown State, Ohio State. You've often said you win with people. I heard you say you win with people. And I hear your guys repeating that all the time. Every time I hear Roy Hall, he always talks about Coach Tressel winning with people. When you say that, what does that mean to Coach Tressel, winning with people?
Well, we used to talk a lot about what we called yaw, which was you are who you associate with, Y-A-W, Y-A-W. Wow. And you also succeed based upon who you're associated with. And, being with the right kind of people who have the common good in mind, who have the group at the top and maybe their individual desires, which is so hard because we humans are selfish by nature. And we have to work intentionally to be a good team person. We just do. It's hard. You have to catch yourself because society tries to trick you into thinking, go for what you want, take care of yourself. Here's ways for you to make more money, or here's ways for you to get more acclaim or whatever. And it's hard to take those distractions and say, okay, hey, I do want to be All-American. But what's most important is what I can do for this team and what I can do for this university. And, all of us that get a little bit older, And all of a sudden, our victories are just trivia questions. I run into kids today in high schools, and shoot, they were just being born when we won the national championship against Miami. I mean, that's irrelevant, really, in their lives.
Right.
But what's important is, what impact you made that is passing along, and so what you did on behalf of the team. And so that's what we would talk to our guys a lot about is, hey, we do not apologize for wanting to win. And don't you apologize for wanting to be first string and All-American and lead the nation in rushing. Don't apologize for that. But the team comes first. And we have to work hard to try to keep that in mind. It's not easy, but it's just like our spiritual journey. It's simple. It's not easy.
Not easy. Right. So now what was that again, Coach? Yahweh?
Yah.
Yeah.
YAW. You are who you associate with.
Wow. That's good stuff there. That's a great gem there. That's a great gem. You successfully made the transition, the shift from the sideline, and you went to the other side. You got up the sideline, you went up in the press box, you went up in the president's suite and all that, Collins, why do you value the education experience is so important for young people? Why is that education experience so important for young people? And you did a great job with transitioning that from the field to the administration. Why is that education experience so important?
Well, I think that people in general need something they can learn about so that they can contribute to the good of the whole. And there's a certain self-worth when you learn to do a job and you do the job and it helps the overall good, and then you get paid for it and you feel good. The thing you never want is for someone not to have that self-worth that, hey, I'm contributing. Well, you need to be trained to contribute. And so there are fundamentals. They say by third grade, you have to get to a certain reading level or you're going to fall behind. Well, by sixth grade, you got to get to a certain problem-solving math level so that you don't fall behind. And then you get into maybe learning some things specific to whether it's that person that's got a knack for engineering or that person who just loves teaching others or that person who loves being in the hospital room so that they can serve others at their time of greatest need, or someone that wants to work in the business world who wants to make sure that they can help others with their financial security, or whatever it happens to be. I really believe that we're shortchanging young people if we don't help them learn something that they can do so that they have that good self-image and make a living, obviously.
Yes. Right.
But more important than that, have that feeling, you know what? I contributed to the good of the whole, and they need me. The whole needs me. And so education, I think, is so critical because I think basically people are curious.
Yes.
We just have to make sure that we do a good job in the way we teach so that they remain curious. They want to be lifelong learners, and they want to make a difference, and they want to create that opportunity to have that self-worth of doing something that is worthy of someone giving them a paycheck, and it helps the good of the whole. And so I've just been a believer that I never liked history, Tim, when I was young. I don't know why. I liked today's game. I didn't care about it.
Right.
But the older I get, the more I enjoy history. And what I've learned is that history is a great study because it's that study of complex design of how things ended up. Some people love history even when they're young. Go study history. A historian can be like that data analytics person, because that's all data analytics is studying history, right? With numbers. And so, I just think there's so many opportunities that are ever changing that education needs to be something exciting that people love being a lifelong learner.
And you did it well, and you're doing it well, not just with your players, but also with those students that you're impacting those college campuses. As we celebrate Fatherhood Month, you look back on the influence of your dad and the dads of your players. What word of encouragement would you give to fathers today?
Well, there's no greater responsibility.
Mm.
Yes, your job's important, and we all sometimes get motivated by wanting to spend more time on our job. And coaches are the worst when it comes to that. We work hours and hours and hours, but there's nothing more fulfilling than seeing what your children have become and giving them the example. And it's difficult in different positions. I know I was a head coach most of the time my kids were growing up, and a head coach has got a lot of responsibilities. And, what you hope is that you really take the time to be at their games and to read to them at night and to, do whatever. And so I would challenge the dads, and it's been fun watching my former players and seeing what kind of dads they are. Some of them didn't have great dads, and they're going to do better. Others had wonderful dads. But I don't know if there's anything from a vocation standpoint on this earth that's more important than being a dad or a mom.
That's good. Of course, we wrap up. It's a podcast is about legacy. You hear that word legacy. Two parts of this question. One is, what does that word legacy mean to you? And then what is the legacy of Coach Jim Tressel?
I think the word legacy means is what did you leave behind? And, what was that, summary of your life's works, if you will, of your life's impacts. And what would I hope my legacy would be is that I was a good example, because I think there's nothing more important. I hope I was a good example to my own children and the children that I had a chance to, have come play for us and come to our university. And I hope my legacy would be that every one of those students and players that I had knows that I cared about them. And in fact, I just got a book remember Tyson Gentry?
Oh yeah.
You heard him speak the other day at Roy's thing?
Yeah.
Well, that day he was there speaking, he gave me a book, and he sent an email out to a couple hundred players and asked them to write a 1-page letter to me.
Wow.
And he bound it and put it in a book.
Wow.
And he entitled it Coach's Legacy. And it's been humbling reading those letters from those kids. But that was the title of the book, A Coach's Legacy. And I think what he was trying to do is say, hey, Coach, I just want you to know, here's what the guys think. Yes. And it was humbling reading.
That's powerful. Well, Coach, that brings us to the end of this episode, as we had this special Father's Day talk during Fatherhood Month. I want to thank our special guest, Coach Jim Tressel, for sharing his wisdom of building a lifelong legacy in sports and impacting lives. Coach Tressel, thank you for your commitment to serving the Lord and making a difference in the lives of so many young men. Thanks,
Tim,
Coach.
Thank you for your lifetime. I've watched you and I are the same from the same era, and I've watched you in the course of time not waver 1 minute of what God called you to do, and that's strong. That's appreciated, and I know you've touched thousands and thousands of lives, and it's an honor to be on your podcast.
Thank you, Coach. I want to thank the audience for joining us during this enlightening and informed discussion on the special relationship between a coach, a player, and a dad. I hope this episode was beneficial to you. As always, thanks for listening. Be a Baller Podcast.
If you enjoy our show, please share this podcast with your family and friends. Be a Baller Podcast is available on all major podcast stations. Be sure to come back next week as we continue to discuss on how to build a lifelong legacy. Until then, don't forget to be a baller. This podcast was created by Coach Tim Brown. It was edited by Teron Howell and produced and recorded by the video production class of Worthington Christian High School.